we have here with us Shubhranshu Choudhary, sir. He's a journalist formerly with BBC. He covered most of the wars in South Asia, but was forced to think about the role of the current mainstream media in fueling these conflicts while covering the Maoist problem in central India, where he grew up to his refugee parents who came there to work for the railways. Shubhranshu was given the Google Digital Activism Award in 2014 and was chosen as one of the 100 leading global thinkers by Foreign Policy magazine the same year. Shubhranshu sir is working on the new peace process in central India to bring peace in the conflict ravaged region with the help of tools like Bultoo radio for a decade and a half. He is the author of the book Let's Call Him Vasu with Maoists in Chattisgarh and is an International Knight Journalism Fellow with the International Center for Journalists in Washington, D.C. On behalf of Sitara, I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Sudha, and thank you for having me here. So, as you heard, that I am not a technology person. I'm a five killed, seven injured, so we call journalist. And so, I grew up in this part. This is a place called Bastar, and I was talking to Sudha just before, and by a coincidence, Sudha said she's working on bamboo and clothes and exactly a technological solution. We are looking on that front today as we talk. But let me try to tell you my story of this Bultoo radio, which is the topic of the talk today. So I used to come here as a journalist. And as any journalist will do, as I said, five killed, seven injured, and you talk to this side and that side. We love conflict. Maybe that's our bread and butter. If there is no malaria, there is no corona, what will the doctors do? In the same way, if people are not fighting, what will we journalists do? But as Sudha said, I also grew up in this part, and I actually studied in a tribal school. There are two types of education in this part of world. So I actually went to a tribal welfare department school. So most of my schoolmates were tribal boys and girls, and I found and that kind of made me think that what has gone wrong here. But what they told me that you tell your stories with your pen, with your camera, and we use a different technology. We use AK-47 to tell our stories. I said, what is that? And why is that? Why is our technology inclusive enough that they also tell their stories? So that's where the story of Bultoo radio starts. This was also the time when internet was coming in our lives. I'm talking about mid 90s. Mobile phone was coming in our lives. And there was no Google, there was no Facebook, but there were some, we call them list serves. I'm sure Professor Shah will remember. It's not needed anymore. So these universities, I remember from Harvard and some Japanese universities. I was in BBC, so I had these international connections. So I became member of these list serves, and that was what those quote unquote terrorists were asking for. They will tell me, if you want to help us, can you create हवा के जैसा मीडिया. So sorry, I'm saying in Hindi, हवा के जैसा media means, can you prepare or can you build a media which is like air? I said, what do you mean by that? So they are rural people, they are tribal people, they are rustic people, but they have knowledge. So they said, see, we are sitting under this tree and we're talking to each other. What is the media we are using? I said, yeah, the media of air. So that is natural media. That is, so it's not exact words, but what they were trying to say is a media which is inclusive, a media which is democratic, a media which gives equal right to everyone to speak or give equal importance to each voice. So that's the natural media, and the technology we use, we means the journalists use, was all directly opposite to what they were saying. So let's start with printing press, or come to radio. I was working with television. It's all one way. It's all, so we call it broadcast medium. So it's controlled by few, and it reaches a lot of people, but it does not include lots of people. So, like we had aristocracy, Raja, means the king, and his coterie of ministers, and the rest is, praja, as we call in Hindi. So in the same way, we have owners, owners of the printing press, owners of television station, and like ministers, we are journalists who tell the story, and rest is viewers or listeners and readers. It's one way of doing things. But when you look at this war, so it's a good story for me. I mean, I will do documentaries, I'll write books, and but does it contribute in finding the real story? Does it contribute in its solution? I found that we were lacking in that. We were talking to the Maoist chief, we were talking to the police chief, and telling the world the details. But mainly the story was somewhere in the middle. The story was somewhere with these boys and girls, because there was 1% leaders who were people like you and me, who went from colleges, from urban areas, and they wanted to change the world. They wanted to do revolution. But this 99%, the tribal boys and girls who make it India's biggest internal security threat, were talking of something else. And I could hear them because I had this special connection with them, because I was from that region, I knew some of their languages, and I was interested. But I will not do the same in like other conflicts. In other conflicts, I don't even know the local languages. If you go to Sri Lanka, you'll have to know Tamil or Sinhala. If you go to Kashmir, you'll have to know Kashmiri. Same is Northeast. These were the wars I was covering on those days. So same Pakistan and Afghanistan and Nepal. But when I started to talk to these, quote unquote, I said terrorists, what I realized is what we need is a different model, a different paradigm of communication, which is now we call social media, which is now, democratic media is not a term often used, but what we need is democracy or inclusiveness, and can we have that technology? So the list serves was a real game changer for me. We have this Hawa ke jaisa media. So I say it goes to everyone, then somebody replies it comes to everyone. That's what we probably need, because Hawa or air or natural media does not take us very far. We can talk in one room only or under one tree only. But we want to reach more people, but can we also be democratic? Can we also be responsible? Can we also be inclusive? So we started CGnet. So CG is central Gondwana, that mythical place from where mankind or humankind started its journey. So central part of that, so central India, where these Adivasis or tribals live, and most of them are oral. So like these are mainly Gond tribals. Like Pankaj has worked with many other tribes in Andaman. So the Gondi is their language, and 2011's census tells us there are 1.2 crore Gonds. But guess what? There is no media. There is so we worked with Google to inaugurate the first Gondi Unicode font on last 2nd October. Um, uh, there is no Google, and there is no presence of Gondi, so there was no font, so there was no written There are no books available. All India Radio, which is the only thing reaches in this part of the world. Radio is not very useful for you and me, but this is the forest area. And but All India Radio does not broadcast even a single news bulletin for a language which is of 1.2 crore people. Much bigger than many European countries. Like Bastar is bigger than Israel, bigger than Belgium, bigger than Kerala state. But if you go beyond this city where I am, very little internet. So when we started CGnet, it really worked very well. It exposed huge human rights violations taking place here. I will not go into that detail because today I want to talk about Bultoo. So it was the faulty paradigm where the journalists were not reporting, the media owners did not want some stories to come out, but in a Yahoo group, which was CGnet at that time, people started telling their stories. And after a little cross checking and verification, that came out in mainstream media. And that stopped a big, government program. So I will not go into those details. But soon we realized that this social media, which is mainly internet based, will not take us very far in this bottom of the pyramid situations where at that time 99% people didn't have any internet. Today maybe it is 10%. I'm not in whole Buster. As I said, it's huge area. So there are pockets where things are better. There are pockets where it will be the same situation where 10% people or less than 10% people have access to internet. Similarly, mobile phone, which came to our lives exactly in the same time. I'm talking about mid 90s. But mobile phone also has not reached many of these parts because of forest and because of this conflict, because Maoists don't like mobile phone because they have come to this region because this is remote. This is a great place for doing guerrilla war because there are no roads, there are hills, and you don't know. Some of the places are not even surveyed, like Yatin, who may have joined, who I met first in a place called Narayanpur, where he was posted, and that's the headquarter of Maoists. It's a place, a forest called Abujmar, which is 4,000 square kilometers, and nobody knows what is there. Because because it's controlled by Maoists. Uh, this is also a problem of break of communication. The people who are fighting, like Abujmar. So Abujmar is inhabited by Abujmadia tribals. They speak a language called Abujmadia. We have not worked on Abujmadia language, and we cannot enter those areas. So how do we communicate with them? So social media is great, and it has brought out these human rights problems, violations, but it will not take us very far. We will have to soon connect it with mobile phone, and that's where our organization became CGnet Swara. So Swara means voice, as you know. So we connected internet with phone, and people started telling their stories through phone. I will not talk of that as well today, but soon we realized that, okay, phone has increased our number from 10%, maybe we can now reach 30%. But a huge majority in this region doesn't even have access to mobile phone signals. So like Gadchiroli, Sudha was just talking about, I just came back from Gadchiroli in Bhamragad Taluka or block. I found around 10% people on internet, around 30% people on phone, 50-60% people, villages do not have even phone access. But the interesting part is Many of them, so not all, but at least half a dozen, you'll find handsets in each village. So I was quite surprised that they don't have phone signal. So why are they investing on this? It's quite expensive. It is, they are poorest of the poor people. ₹2,000, ₹3,000. So Bultoo, so we do Bultoo with this. So I said, what? What do you do with this? So they were quite surprised that I don't know what is Bultoo. For them, that is the only thing they have which works on their phone. So that is Bluetooth. They cannot pronounce, so it has become Bultoo. And they were transferring songs with each other. So, like we have Facebook, they have their weekly market, which they call Heart. We go to market to buy something, they go to market to buy and sell, and also socialize. So you don't have anything to buy or sell, you still go to the market because for gossiping. When they go to the market, in this market there will be a guy selling songs. He probably have a smartphone or has a laptop, and he'll give you in ₹2 10 songs. And then when you come back home, you do Bultu with each other and exchange songs and exchange little videos as well. So that was the use of Bluetooth in those villages. Now, as I was talking about Abuchmar, this 4,000 square kilometers, you cannot enter physically. Yes, airwaves can reach, but All India Radio, as I was talking about, doesn't do anything in Gondi, and Abujmadia is a dialect of Gond or Gondi, so forget about Abujmadia. I was in Gadchiroli, and my colleague, his name is Lalsu Nogoti, and his mother I met, and she was talking about Indira Gandhi, that Indira Gandhi is still the prime minister of our country. Now, somebody who knows only Madia or Abuch Madia, and there is no newspaper, there is no communication in that language. Your world is only your family, and your boast is your heart. So Abuch Madiyas are fighting for forest rights. When you talk to the leaders, which is only 1% outsiders, they want to do revolution. But Abuch Madiyas, which are the 99% of the problem, if you call it, they are fighting for Jangal Ka Adhikar. They want right over their forest, which is written in our constitution from 2006 when the Forest Rights Act was passed. But it was never translated in Abuj Madia. It was never told to them that what you're fighting for, you can actually apply for it. So nobody has applied for it because nobody knows about it. So what comes in rescue is this Bultoo radio. So we started putting these stories on simple audio files and go to the heart. And when you're giving it, when they're buying a song, also give them this free Bultu radio, which is in their dialect. So some Abuj Madia boys and girls need to be trained. And when they go home, they transfer to each other. And they come to know about habitat right, that Abuj Madia can have ownership of entire ownership of entire. So what we started doing is, okay, can we do it a bit better now? So this was Jugaad what we did. So can we bring in a bit of technology? So we got in touch with some of technology students, like some of you, and they built us an app. We call it Bultoo app. And what Bultoo app does is, when I'm standing in the market, um, the person who I need to give the bull to, if he enters the market, it tells me that I have reached. And then it transfers automatically the latest Bultu. And when he got she can transfer the Bultu. And when he or she again comes back to the hearts, it also informs me people. And not so he or she receives, so 5 transfers to ₹2 into 5, ₹10. rupees of mobile, where and they can also bring their stories out. So if this person who has the Bultoo app wants to tell a story himself, or somebody wants to tell some story and he or she records it, and once he or she comes to the mobile range, it automatically connects to our server. And the next Bultoo radio is uh, are you able to hear me? Hello, hello.
We are Shubhranshu. It's hanging up in the middle once in a while. So I think maybe there's a problem with the network at your end. But it's
Okay,
okay.
no, there were a couple of phone calls, so maybe that caused the problem, which we were discussing before. So I'm reaching around 30 minutes of my talk, so you need to tell me where to stop,
You have
so we
15 minutes.
can go to.
Please go on for another 10-15 minutes. Then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so that's the story of Bultoo. That if you want to create a social media for poor people, first we realized it cannot be based only on internet. It cannot be based only on written communication. So we moved to CGnet Swara, so voice. But then we realized that mobile phone also does not take you to the last person. So like design of political democracy, uh, they thought of the last person. When last person can come on board, means everybody can come on board. So the last person in India or in developing world is not on mobile phone either. It can be an Adivasi woman who lives, five rivers and five hills apart, speaks a language which nobody understands. But now, what revolution has taken place in our country, at least, I'm sure in other parts of the world also, 50% of the world, or around 50% of the world, is still not on internet. But what we are finding that this mobile phone tool, this handset, has made entry into most of the villages. If not in every village, then they can walk a little distance and can have access to mobile phone. And mobile phone is the new broadcaster. If you have a smartphone, you are a television station, you are a broadcaster. And that we must utilize, that we must use to make inclusive media. So the world was aristocratic or theocratic or had military rule. That was the story of last few centuries. The last century was the century of democratization of politics. Now, slowly but steadily, India was the start, probably, in developing world. We became the first democracy in the poor world, and everybody thought, and how will it work in a country where 12% people know how to read and write? How can they decide about their own future? But that's the only, if there's one good thing or the best thing we have done so far in last 100 years, I would say that we switched from aristocracy to democracy, political democracy. But democracy cannot function if our communication is not democratic. Communication makes community. If there is no communication, there will not be any community. Community we build. So if we have aristocratic communication, which we have today, the mainstream media, which we call, is neither mainstream but is not democratic. It's one way, it's top down, it is catering mainly to the upper class or rich, or the creamy layer of our society, let's put it. And that cannot make a robust political democracy, is what I understood after talking to these quote unquote terrorists. So we need technology to democratize media, and that is all possible today, that is all doable, but we need to build it. And that's where I was so glad when Pankaj asked me to speak to you guys. So we need your help to make. So we are doing an experiment. We are doing it for 15 years now, but we have not reached very far because it's a conflict area, and we are not technology people. Means like in our team, there's not even a single technology person because you guys are expensive. So we can't hire even one. So we go to students all the time. Can we do this? Can we build that? So like I was talking to Sudha just before the talk, I'm just digressing a bit. So people say, oh, people are revolting because they're poor. I said, I have not seen any poor here. Um, you see beggars in the cities. There are no beggars here. They all grow their own food. So we talk about roti, kapda, makan. So they all have roti. They all have makan. So they don't need their our bricks and mortars and steel. They build their own houses. But what is missing here is I didn't see any, though Bastar word comes from Vastar. Vastra means, clothes. That's a mythological story. And it's a land of Bas. So Bastar, or that, what was the name? So it's a land of bamboo. And but it doesn't have any culture of handlooms. So they are self-sufficient on food. They are self-sufficient uh, on on houses. So if you're talking about roti kapda makan, and that's what makes people revolt, that's not the story here. But anyway, I will not go into that story. Can we help them introduce clothes? But there is no cotton here. So can we build a technology for bamboo khadi? So this is something I am trying to work on. I work with a peace project as well. So CGnet is also a peace journalism project because we understood that people are revolting because their problems are not heard, because their problems are not resolved, and these are not earth-shattering problems. They're not talking about Lal Killa mein Lal Jhanda. They're not talking about Maoism. They're not talking of revolution. They're talking about water. They're talking about right of their land. They're talking about their forest. And these are given in our constitution. So we need to use technology to improve our delivery system. So how do you deliver when there is no internet? How do you deliver when you cannot go to these places? Like uh, around 10,000 square kilometer in Bastar is a no-go zone. We call it red zone. But I was reading in your website today, not reading, I was watching the video, introductory video of Sitara, and I missed the name. Somebody is working on data from remote rural areas. Some of you may be working on remote sensing or satellite data. So can we work together like Abujmar, I was talking about where I met Yatin first. Abujmar is 4,000 square kilometer, completely no-go area. Airwaves can go, but they need habitat right, but we need to do mapping of that area without going there. Can we work together on that? So red zones, how do we make him? Abujmar is the only area in the country which has not been mapped yet. It was not mapped by British. It was not mapped by independent India. So we don't know what is there, but that's the headquarter. If you want to resolve this issue, we need to reach these 99% people who are fighting for forest right, and forest right is already there in our constitution. So when they are fighting for something which is there, there needs to be communication. They need to be told. In the same way, we need to improve our delivery mechanism, that when they raise their problem, it should reach. So we are working on machine translation tool. No invention required. Machine translation tool between Gondi and Hindi. So they speak in Gondi, we can understand in Hindi. We speak in Hindi, they can understand in Gondi. So those kind of technologies are needed to resolve this, what our former prime minister called India's biggest internal security threat. So we journalists would love if this continues, and many more people do. But we need to come together. When I say we, means you, the technology people, and we, the people who are on ground. So journalists don't call me journalist, but I would like to call myself a journalist because I'm helping people become journalists. I'm trying to put together technology or technology people or design people, so that people can tell their stories. Like everybody is a voter today, everybody can also be a reporter. And we need to build that technology that the last person can tell that story and should be heard. But at the same time, it needs a huge technological intervention. If 1.3 billion people start talking at the same time, you can't make out what are they talking about. But we build election commission. There is a system. So 1.3 billion people vote, and we know that they want Mr. X or they don't want Mrs. Y. So in the same way, we need artificial intelligence. We need Times of Rural India. We have Times of India for more than 150 years or more, I don't know. And Times of Rural India is possible for it only at our own peril, because all these wars are okay. We tell you a story. Or failure of delivery of democracy can be resolved using what Sitara stand for, alternative technology. So if internet doesn't work, can we link it with phone? If phone doesn't work, can we link it with Bluetooth? Can we increase the distance of Bluetooth works in 1 meter range only? Can we increase it to I think 15 kilometers? I don't know. Can we use drone technology? Can we use satellite technology? Can we bring all these technologies together, which are appropriate here? No, there's no electricity here. I'm lucky enough that electricity is there, and you're not talking to a ghost. Electricity came just 5 minutes before the talk. It was not there for more than 6 hours or something in the morning. So we need to think of appropriate technology, alternative technology to solve these problems. So journalism was too much on just telling problem. So I say that we also need to think of solution. Of course, it's our work to tell what's going on, what is the problem, and many of the times we don't understand the problem either, because we didn't understand the problem here because our model is only parachuting. We inform you 50 people killed, and then we can come back when there is 150 killed. Neither we understand why 50 were killed and why 150 got killed. So we need to work on the journalism side, but technology also need to change. So internet was the disruption. Internet was the break as far as broadcast technology is concerned. Earlier, all the technologies were aristocratic, if I can say. Internet is democratic, but not democratic enough. So if we all have internet, so it's democratic for Finland, but it is not democratic for Bastar. So can we make our social media? So social media today is neither social nor media. So social means inclusive. So if it doesn't reach majority of people, half of the world is still not on internet. So how can it be called social? Similarly, media means it needs to be responsible. So the basis of journalism is it needs to be cross-checked, verified, improved. So 100 people say something, we need to have a system where one the person or a group of people work on that and improves that, and that story goes out. So like we have made election commission, can we make news commission? So the majority of people, whatever they're saying, that's being heard. So today, India, you work a lot on agriculture in Sitara. But do you know in any journalism institution there is any agriculture correspondent? And if you read all these quote unquote mainstream media and watch all these mainstream media, would you understand that anybody does any farming in this country? There is anything called rural India. It does not exist because there are no rural reporters. It's all very top down. It's all very urban. So there is a lot of problem in the world of communication, and it is not only the problem of journalists, because politics is everybody's business. In the same way, communication is also for greater common good. But unfortunately, the technology we use today, the design of it, the paradigm of it, is not catering to that. When greater number of people participate, it's generally more or less works for greater common good. But when participation is only by a small number of people, as it happened in theocracy, as it happened in military rule, as it happened in aristocracy, so the whole world, slowly has moved from aristocracy to democracy. But we need exactly the same in mass communication, and that's where this experiment of Bultoo is. But it's only a start. It's only a very, very, very small beginning. And we have a long way to go because it's not robust. It's very cumbersome. It has many holes in it. So that's why I'm very grateful that Pankaj invited me to talk to you. I'll be keen to talk more. I'll be keen to explore possibility of some of you working with us, helping us helping of this model, which is nothing but creating a social media, which is social and also media for all, and also creating a paradigm where there are many social media and they all contribute to, so like one panchayat and many panchayats come together makes a block. Many blocks come together makes a district. In the same way, if the news can come from bottom, so one news come from one area, and they, if there is an umbrella, if there is a news commission, if there is a real trending of what the world is talking about today. We get trending on internet, but not majority of people are there on Twitter. So when people are talking, and we can get real time data that today 79% people are talking about water, and I get also a data that today, last year or the year before, only 39% people were talking about water. So I get a feeling or understanding that sorry, that there is something wrong in water. So as a journalist, I become representative. Today, journalism is complete humbug. We don't know what is going on. Just 5 minutes before of election result of America, now America is going to election in few weeks. All my friends said, Hillary is winning. There's no way. And so it's not an Indian problem. It's a problem of the whole paradigm of mass communication or journalism or whatever we call it today, and that needs a solution. We have lost touch with the people. The television people read newspaper, the newspaper people watch TV. We have a small coterie, we talk to each other, and we don't touch people. It's becoming more and more difficult to. There's no money now with COVID. You can't even travel. So journalism or the information we give is very sketchy, and it needs a new paradigm. It needs a new system. So can everybody tell their stories? But every story will not go into the main newspaper. There needs to be a system, and that so everybody is giving first information. That does not mean every story is going out. So there needs to be a system. So it needs to be scientific. So technology can come in. You should identify who is telling what, and oral is still the medium of majority of people feel more comfortable speaking and listening, not reading and writing, not sending a video. So it needs to be all. It needs to have a video, it needs to have written word, but it needs to have voice in a big way, where this last person who speaks in a language which no one understands can tell her story. And if her story is important enough, it should become the mainstream media top headline. Then only we can solve these wars. Then we can stop these conflicts, because chota problem, all these small problems when they do not get resolved, that's what we do in Bultoo Radio. When they don't get resolved, they become a bomb. Somebody comes from outside and leads them, and we call it a Maoist problem. But the problem is something else, which is a creation of the paradigm we have, with the system we have. So we need to work on creating our communication, which is more inclusive, which is more democratic, and that's where we need these tools like Bultoo and these experiments like Bultoo Radio and more of it. So let me stop here, and I'll welcome any question, please.
Thank you, Shubhranshu. This is Pankaj. So I'll just have a couple of things I'd like to ask Shubhranshu. Can you hear me, Shubhranshu?
Yes, I can.
But I was just wondering if you can also tell us a little bit more about the one or two of the most exciting outcomes of the Bultoo Radio or the Bultoo experiment, because you mentioned that it did something that changed some of the larger decisions and the way things were moving in that area. So if you can illustrate and tell us how it worked and what were those one or two issues that were not being covered, but Bultoo actually forced a rediscussion on the discourse of what was happening. And that is one part of my question to you. Can you hear me? Yeah. And
so Pankaj bhai, just form, it was a, yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. And the second part, I just was thinking if you can share from a more personal kind of experience of what might have been one or two of the most moving experience for you as a journalist or as somebody intervening in this really unknown remote area. What made it worthwhile to continue in the way that you've been doing for so many years now? So two parts to this question, one a little more general, the other a little more personal. So we get a little more sense of how things have been happening, if that's okay.
So if you read mainstream media, the solution you come up with is that there is a military problem. It has a military solution. They are with guns. We need to send our cannons, and that's what is going on here. They kill 5, we kill 15. They kill 25, we kill 55. So it's a ping pong game going on here. But so this problem needs better understanding. So Bultoo Radio helps us in doing that. When we were doing the internet-based platform, the stories of human rights violations came out. But in Bultoo Radio, people talk about their basic issues. They talk about wages not being paid. They talk about hand pumps not being fixed. Now, hand pump is not a story for me if I'm a journalist. But when you go and look it from the eyes of a woman who is spending 4 hours a day bringing water, and the water is so dirty that she spends 25% of her income, which is very small anyway, on medicines of her sons and daughter. And there are 40 families in that village, and the hand pump has not been repaired for months. Then you understand how big a story that is. Wages not being paid for months, for years, and these are not stories. But when it is happening in an entire region, and people start collectively helping each other also. So now in Bultoo Radio, we have created another app. We call it, so I'm bringing technology here. We call it Mobile Satyagraha app. So Gandhi talked about Satyagraha, that you go and sit with people and help them out. But I can't go to a village every day, neither you. So can't we help it sitting in Bombay? So you can. So can we link all our mobile phones? So Mobile Satyagraha is a simple tool where you can choose the problems and intervene. You can email the officer, you can WhatsApp, you can speak the language of the officer. So we solve around 30% of the problems today. So if there are 100 problems reported on Bultoo Radio, 30 people call us back and say, thank you, our problem has got solved. I think we probably saved 30 people from becoming, if I can use the word, terrorist, because it is not political violence. It is hopelessness led by a violent ideology. So work on that hopelessness. Do we need to change? Do we need to change laws for that hopelessness? We need to work on changing that law also. But most of the time, it's the delivery problem. Most of the time, it's a communication problem. So Bultoo Radio helps in that, and they also sing songs. They 50-60% of the content is songs. They don't even have a platform for singing their songs. They are oral people. They love singing. They create songs, and they have lots of songs. So that is the personal story that we need to help people tell their stories. We need to create platforms where people can tell their stories, and we need to make sure that it reaches the right people in the right form. And all these things are doable. All these things are technologically, possible today. Maybe it was not possible before. So we are contributing this way in peace building there. So that's what I want to talk, that if our paradigm is faulty, our decisions many times are faulty. So we need to think deeply on our systems, on our designs. If I could answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, I'll hand over Sudha to kind of now. Anybody has questions, you can either type it in or raise your hand, and Sudha will help moderate the whole thing. Thank you so much, Shubhranshu.
People with network issues can type in the chat box. Other people can raise their hands.
So I can see one question from Naresh Nayan.
Yes, sir. It says, what are 2 to 3 things that can be done? Please suggest.
So like in Bultoo Radio, I started saying that can we increase the range of Bluetooth transfer? Can we make that faster? We have these apps, but most of the time they don't work because some student comes, makes it, and moves on. And we don't have any technology person. So at the moment, our mobile Satyagraha app is also down. Our Bultoo app is also down. Hopefully, it will be up soon. So there are many small tweaking which can be done to these make these tools better. But there are more things which can be done. Like I was talking to you, Sudha, about can we make bamboo khadi? This will sound a bit odd, but this is bamboo land, and there's no cotton here, and these hands, they needs work now. Can we? I've been talking to lots of people, and they say it's impossible. Yes, you can do with lots of chemicals and lots of technology, but can we create a appropriate technology tool so bamboo is converted to fiber and fabric? I think it should be doable. But I spoke to many people, and they said nobody's doing it in India. If people were doing it in China, but they have also moved on to new technology. I said new technology doesn't help us. New technology helps Chaudhary ji, Mishra ji, and Yadav ji. We get jobs. We are educated people. But here we are talking about 90% people who don't know how to read and write. So can we? So to answer your question, Naresh, one more thing is, can we create a model of converting bamboo to fabric, but it will have to be so let's call it handmade fabric, handmade bamboo fabric. So I'm talking about textile technology, but it shouldn't be rocket science. It should be khadi. It should be gramodyog. It should be very rural and very working with hands. I want to know what kind of phones the people use, their smartphone or the normal handset with button. So smartphone is increasing, but mostly handsets with buttons. So in one village, you'll find one or two smartphones, but it is increasing with Geo. Like I'm talking to you from Geo. So, we may not like something in some personality, but the greed has also given us this revolution of mobile phone. So mobile phone penetration is increasing, and this 3G, 4G is also increasing, which was not the case before. So that's one thing I know some of you are working. And the second thing I was also talking, that we have this 10,000 square kilometer of no-go area. So we say here three types of places. Green area where everybody can go, yellow area. So green area is government controlled areas. Yellow areas where Maoists also come and state also goes. And the red areas are Maoist controlled areas. Like I was talking about Abujmar, where I met Yatin in Narayanpur district. So can we use, so our task is, there are people there are real people there, and they have needs, and they have schools, they have hospitals. It's okay, not hospitals, but health workers. How do we improve on health? How do we improve on agriculture? How do we improve on education without going there physically? How do we improve on delivery of, say, ration, PDS, and forest rights? So say forest right. This is forest area, and the biggest thing for them is forest and forest rights. They can't even apply. So can we create an app where we can do the whole forest rights application without visiting everywhere? So so this is a challenge. So there's a smartphone in a village, and which will be connected to internet from time to time, because they come to marketplace, and that's a weekly marketplace. So we need the data of the land. We need caste certificate from panchayat. We need oral certification by two adults. Whatever all is required, this application to be made on phone. So the whole forest rights application on phone, without no visit from either side. So with no touch. So forest rights Corona style. Uh, can we do that? So similar challenges. So as I said, 99% of Abujmar, who we call hundreds of Maoists, came and attacked. So if you read my reports, you will say, okay, there are 100 terrorists, so I need to have 1,000 army here to defeat them. But out of that 100 terrorists, quote unquote, there was one who was looking for revolution, and the 99 are looking for forest rights. And 1% is saying, the state will never give you, their demons and blah blah, and they attack us. But if you can communicate with them, and if we can help them apply for their forest rights while we are not in touch, can there be a technological solution here?
Anand?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Anand.
Sir, thanks a lot for this wonderful session, sir. And the message that you have tried to communicate is really strong. So, and the ideal which you mentioned, that when the last person story speaking in a very remote language, when it hits the mainstream media, the headlines of the mainstream media, then only the wars can be stopped. So that is really a powerful message, sir. So I just want to ask a couple of questions on this. So we have many remote areas in which still the mobile phones has not yet penetrated. So how we can help in bringing the voice of those people to bring in mainstream media? And this is one question. And the other question which I tried to ask is, so what will be your suggestion, since we are the technology people, so how we can use our technology to address these issues?
So if there is no mobile phone, there is Bultoo, there is Bluetooth. That's the whole talk about. There is nothing but Bluetooth works. And what I mean, I go to these remotest villages. let it be Dindori or let it be Gadchiroli. And what I find today is Maoists also have phone now. So they all have handsets, not all, and Bluetooth works. Now, our work is how to make this last mile connectivity better, easier, faster. So we need to connect internet with phone and also with Bluetooth. And there may be more things like if you put a balloon on the top and every phone starts having internet, that's another solution. But those are not happening. So we need to look at can we improve or increase the strength of Bluetooth? Can we make this Bultoo app more robust so it does more things and in a easier way, in a better way, more manageable way? So Bluetooth is a technology which can be used. The smartphones, they can transfer things. So you can create your own hotspots. You can use mesh technology. So I'm not a technology person, so I don't have a technological answer. But what I'm trying to request all of you is so there are these tools, and there will be more which I don't know. Can we use them to create a social media for all? When Asmal Kasab comes to Bombay and kills people, we are very surprised. But we like it or not, we live in the same world. And if something is rotten in one part of the world, it reaches us today, tomorrow, or day after. So we are living in a connected world today. So, but there are still areas where internet doesn't work, and I'm not saying there is no problem in internet areas. We have three castes of people: internet people, phone people, and no phone people. So we call them Bultoo people. So if we think of the last person and if we make our systems work for the last person, then it works for everyone above. Of course, all problems cannot be solved in any system. But for a person, if all the problems are not solved, so that's the story of the tribals. No problem of them solved, no problem of their fathers solved, no problem of your grandfathers solved. And then somebody comes and says, pick up guns, then you do pick up guns. Nobody's picking up guns in Bombay because if you're not happy with Congress, we go to Aam Aadmi Party, we go to another party. We have choices. But when there is a break of communication, which is a reality for not a big number, but a considerable number in the forest areas. So we need to create appropriate technology. We need to invent, or we need to, whatever is available, put them together. We need to do jugaad. And it's a must to create a social media which is social and which is media. So it needs to be democratic, it needs to be responsible. Now, social media is a fake news factory because the design is such that you have created a marketplace. Marketplace has its own usefulness, but marketplace is not the place for getting authentic news. I may be telling you, something which is rubbish. I may be drunk. I may be, motivated to tell you untruth, which is the reality of social media today. So you'll have to design it in such a way that it's cross-checked, verified, then only it goes out. So as you were saying, that the last person speaks, but there needs to be a mechanism so to evaluate and to check and wait that this story is really the most important story. So how do we do that? If 1.3 billion people are speaking, we can't check each and every story. So it will have to be technology. So like election commission, we'll need a news commission here. We need, voice to text conversion. We need search. I don't know what we need, but what we need is we need artificial intelligence. I know only words of these things. But what we need is a scientific way of telling our stories. Today, what we have is, five people sitting in Bombay and London. What they think is news. As the kings and queens decided for us. Okay, make a road there, make a hand pump there. No, that is right sometimes, but it is not scientific. It is not based on any data. So the news needs to become scientific. Today, why it is a headline, there is no justification for it. There is no rationale, there is no system behind it, but it can be made and it should be made. And it is everybody's problem. If journalism is faltering, we will create a world with more wars and wrong decisions. Our democracy is not functioning because we are taking, many a time wrong decisions, and those wrong decisions are fueled by media, which promotes or circulates wrong information. If I can say, wrong means which does not have weight, that goes out. Which has weight, it does not go out. So we can create a system, and we must create a system. We can only ignore it at our own peril, is what I would like to submit here.
Professor Agnihotri had raised his hand. So also Shubhranshu, Professor Agnihotri is, he is a retired secretary from Government of India. So he brings a huge amount of very interesting experience and background. So it's always very interesting to listen to his comments and questions. I'm hoping he's still there. So sir, please go ahead and...
Hello, Professor Agnihotri.
Yes, I have raised my hand back again. Very interestingly, Shubhranshu, wonderful presentation. To me, it seems that you are following Amartya Sen's approach in his ideas of justice. He says, I can't make the world entirely just, but I can make it less unjust. So I think what you are trying to suggest through Bultoo radio mechanism is कि भाई वो revolution वाला अलग से निपटेंगे, but can you help us make the whole thing less unjust so that the grievances or the views of the people reach to those who can solve it, not through carbine, but through spanners and nuts and bolts or ration cards or whatever. I agree with that intermediate view. But one elephant in the room that people don't talk about, and I did talk about it when I was handling this problem in Cabinet Secretariat, was this excessive security orientation. So we did manage to separate our reviews of the LWE problem, as it is euphemistically called, because the word Naxal is not to be used. So one review used to be security related matters, one review used to be infrastructure related matter, and one review used to be development related matter. So that brought in some kind of a sense. But the elephant in the room is there would be a upper crust who has developed interest in the government apparatus or the regulatory apparatus and the people being made to fight each other. And they benefit from this kind of a country. So that needs to be kept in one's mind while we are looking at this kind of a solution orientation. But having said that, I see a merit in the Bultoo radio in as much as it can reduce, even if it reduces a fraction of grievances, you persuade that many more people not to resort to gun. Now, this is where I have an interesting suggestion for the students as well, and as well as maybe someone like Pankaj, that when we talk in terms of rural technology projects, we typically look at physical gadgets. So we get proposal कि हमको एक efficient pump develop करना. What you are right now asking us is to develop a digital gadget which is essentially improving the efficiency of your tried and tested solution. That is what I heard. So I would so suppose if couple of our technology wala students want to interact with you over a longer time frame, fursat se as it is called, and someone like Pankaj hopefully agrees to be the principal investigator of that project, where the product which is being developed is digital and not physical. Would you see a merit of it? Because then it will be something more structured. और वो एक बच्चा ऐप बना के चला गया तो it will not matter. The second kid can provide you some continuity. So my first question is, does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for raising the point. But yeah, I look for the second question.
Right. The second question is, whenever you talk in terms of a technology, if it has to reach to people, etc., needs a organized structure behind it. And that organized structure invariably comes from establishment. Okay. How do you expect the Bultoo technology to become a lot more widespread and popular with its regulatory structure, which is inherently anti-poor tribal, to change its heart because Bultoo has now expanded its reach? Or would Bultoo get hijacked? So how would you react to that?
So I'm really thankful that you raised it. So these same places where I came, say 10 years ago or 5 years ago, we were kicked out. But things are changing a bit, and it depends on personalities also. But people are now understanding, and when I say people at the top, at the IAS level, and they are using Bultoo now. So like I'm talking to you from Bastar, and they started a app called Guhar. So Guhar is a local word for pleading. But I was talking to the collector, and I said, how many people in your district have access to internet, and how many people can actually type a problem? So Guhar is a good start, but you need to link it with phone, and you need to link it with Bluetooth, and you need to link it with machine translation tools where people will be talking in different language. So that's what we're doing here now. So he asked me to go to 3 blocks which are quote unquote Maoist problem, or LWE I should be saying, problem areas, and people have started raising their issues, and we are linking Bultoo with Guhar now. So I then during Corona time, here they have started Bultoo. Chief Minister also spoke in his speech on what date, 15th August, I think, that we will be starting a Bultoo radio, or he said something like that. So the government is now seeing, and we can only make a model. It will reach people only when government takes it up. So at the
please.
So whenever we have been kicked out, also I have always told my colleagues that we will come back again. So we are going to the same districts where we got kicked out from. So I am very, very keen, or rather I see that the only way. I may not like many things in the government. It's very difficult to work with the government, but there's no other way to reach wider number of people without the government.
Okay, that brings me to my last quick question. We need to continue this discussion separately. If we work on something which is voice to text in Gondi, suppose वो application देना है उसको forest right का, the fellow cannot, the person, he or she cannot read or write, but can speak quite well. So if the application is kind of voice filled and becomes a text application in Gondi language, would you be interested in supporting this kind of a project? Because then what happens is in Sarkar, voice application doesn't survive, but a written kagaz survives. So we could think in terms of the application methodology in a weekly heart being where the person gives her or his details, spoken details, and it gets converted into a text at your server and it becomes an application. That's one question. The question of left thumb impression being communicated can also be technologically solved. So that's one thing. And we have done some experiment in developing certain spoken tutorials for mothers. And they were English, Hindi, etc. initially, but now we are doing it in Purku and Santhali. So if you want these to be done in Gondi, we will need your help in, that the dubbing part of it. But I think that's the other interesting part that we can work. And these videos actually can be put in your non-smart mobile. जो डब्बा 1200 वाला होता है ना, उसमें आराम से 200-250 वीडियो लोड हो सकते हैं. So then instead of just teaching them about health and nutrition, there could be other things, other spoken tutorial material which can be put in Gondi, which can be livelihood oriented. But then we will need a strong support for Gondi from your side. Are you willing?
Answer to all these questions is yes. And most of my colleagues are tribal and Gondi speakers. So I cannot help, but they will be very keen to help. And that's what we do. There is no point reinventing the wheel. So if you have some material which is useful and you can share and we would like to translate, and we are already working on this text to speech with Microsoft Research, but we haven't reached very far. So I'll be very keen to work more on that. And this Forest Rights Act application, you said it will have to be based on voice and voice to text conversion, because government doesn't accept, as you rightly said. So yeah, so yes to everything. Okay. And what you're saying is music to my ears, and thank you very much for all these suggestions. I'll be very, very keen to work on all of them.
Okay, then the bad news is for 3 of my students, Yatin, Shweta and Kritika. आप भी नोट कर लीजिए इन तीनों के नाम. They will be in your wanted list.
Yes, sir.
So, Yatin, Shweta and Kritika, we will discuss this separately with Pankaj, sir.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And Sudha, you are most welcome to join in the bamboo fiber based cloth, however coarse it might be.
Sure, sir.
Bamboo khadi, hum isko bol rahe hain.
You said it. It will be your copyright, the title, but we will try to work on that.
Great, sir. Thank you very, very much. And hello, Yatin.
Hello. Earlier I was working in the kitchen, so I could not unmute myself. Sorry for that.
Before we go ahead, can we ask Pennan? I think Pennan had raised his hand. I'm just taking the liberty. Also, Shubhranshu, Pennan is also one of our faculty colleagues, and he works a lot on water. So I'm thinking he might have some interventions or questions on that, but whatever it might be. Pennan, can you please go ahead? Sudha, sorry, I've taken over your role, but I just thought I will
no, it's okay, sir.
some of these things, yeah, without your permission, so my apologies. Pennan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Pennan.
Yeah. Hi, it was a very good talk, a very, very interesting eye-opener. I was more on the idea about the times of India and the comparisons you made with rural times of India. You know, that is very, very interesting, like a journal or kind of an article just for them. And my question was, how do you make it unbiased? Very straightforward question, because most of these journal articles we see, we ran some techniques last time, AI techniques, to see how much bias they are. And sometimes there are gray and black and white journals towards one direction. So they are biased. So how would you make this idea, this proposal you had about rural times of India unbiased? That was my question.
So I could not hear your whole question, but tell me if I have not understood. Let me try to answer on whatever I've heard. So as Professor Agnihotri said, we cannot make it unbiased, but we can make it less biased. What we have today, we call it independent, but it is absolutely biased. It's biased towards rich, it's biased towards urban people, it's biased towards you and me. And so, what we want to make it is scientific. So that's where your role comes in, Panan. If we can make it artificial intelligence based, or I don't know what based, let the technology decide what more people are talking. Of course, there will be a human element in it, and then can that human, so who we call editor, be elected? What we are trying to do here, not fully. The person who is our editor will be elected by the community. If he's doing his or her work well, he'll be re-elected. Today, I am selected by my owner. So, and I work for my owner. I don't work for the greater common good. But if I am elected by the community, I will have to work for the community if I want to be, re-elected. So it's not a foolproof. It's not, we will not have anything unbiased. All the problems cannot be solved in any system, but can we do better? So what I think is what we are suggesting, all of us, it will be much better than what we have today, which is absolutely biased, absolutely non-independent. तो हम बोलते हैं independent media, independent या मुक्त media जो हिंदी में, sorry, I'm breaking into Hindi. There are two words, muft and mukt. Free media, free का मतलब होता है मुफ्त और मुक्त, है ना? मुक्त means independent and free means which doesn't cost anything. So today media doesn't cost anything. We just give them a token amount, and it is definitely not free. It is not mukt. How we were talking about Times of India. There is no point of bringing any name here, but can you guess how much it costs to produce one copy of Times of India? Any of you? But let me answer. We calculated it more than 10 years ago. It will be much higher now. It's more than 150 rupees to produce one copy of Times of India. And we pay 5 rupees. Who pays 145 rupees? It's the rich and powerful. And if I am paying 145 rupees for your food, your coffee, you don't decide what goes into the food. I decide. So to talk of free media, to talk of independent media, in a system where 99% of the economy comes from 1%, and you base your decisions on that kind of information, and you want to make a better world, you can only imagine. You will make what you are making. You will make a rotten democracy. You will make all the wrong decisions. Like all these problems can be solved militarily. So there is a technological solution to this. It was not there probably 30 years ago. So that's what I was saying, that we can only ignore it at our own peril. It's all doable. Times of rural media or Times of rural India can be made. We can make all the voices heard. That does not mean every voice will have to be the headline, but we can measure it. We can have the real trending of the world today. And if somebody is saying which is the opinion of the majority, let it go. Let it be the first news. But so you guys need to do it, and that's the need. And it's not only Indian need. I was talking about it's a problem of New York Times also. They don't know who will win the next election.
Abhishek?
Yes, sir. So continuing with the discussion going on, so like Times of Rural India, like can we do it like one kind of a Facebook page, so through which we can communicate more, so that people will understand the issues and they will raise them.
Yes, please do. Whatever way we can. So we are all on internet, and let's make a platform where we start talking. But I'm saying Times of India is Times of Rural India, or whatever we call it, is really doable. Like Election Commission, we can call it News Commission. Let all the voices come there. Some will be voice, some will be written stuff, some will be video, some will be something else, and it can be vetted. It can be categorized, and we can have a real data that 79% people talking this, 39% talking that. So there will be a real science behind news. What we have today is art, and unfortunately, art is not governed by best of intentions all the time. What is real journalism today? The journalism today is art of not writing. We will not go into those things. We get paid more for not writing, and we get we know what to write, but we will not write because it will go against that 1% who gives my salary.
Yes, sir.
We want
Exactly.
status quo.
Yeah,
So
because
if this continues for too long, the future of our next generation is not very bright.
yeah, because sir, like you already tell, like running a news channel or a newspaper is financially it is difficult. Like the business model of it, because always the middle class will be the main focus because they are the advertisement, uh, right? So if the social media only, maybe I like, is there any way else rather than social media?
So we will have to make social media social, and media means responsible. So that's doable. So Facebook is great, but it is a model of marketplace. We need to make a model of inclusive and responsible communication for all. It is doable, and we need to make, as you or Penan was saying, make our news as per its weight. So it will not be unbiased, but it can be less biased, and we need to make mechanism so it's working for greater number of people, and it is doable. So it's all these problems have technological solutions. Technology cannot solve everything, but it can solve a lot of things.
We are touching the 1.5 hour mark, and we have a dropout of only about 10%. So you're doing quite well, Shubhranshu. You've not lost too many people. So
Thanks to technology. Technology helps.
thanks to you. So I think we should wrap up because it's been a very, very fascinating 1.5 hour. Unless there are some any important questions that anybody has still to ask, Shubhranshu will be available. We have his email ID, and I think we can always be in touch with him. So I'm just taking this liberty of, with Sudha's permission. So we can request Sudha to close, and maybe like you do always, Sudha, we ask Anand to our head.
Yeah.
Say
Yes,
a word, but yes, Sudha, please take over.
Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of Satara, I would like to thank you for such an interesting session. And I would like to ask Anand, sir, who is our head, to conclude and say a few words.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shubhranshu. I mean, I think your talk, I mean, of course, it was very evident that you are from communications field. So you communicated the issue very well to our students, and that led to a lot of interesting discussion and questions. And I'm sure many of them will think about various directions in which they as technocrats can try to see how this problem can be tackled. So let's hope to have that future collaboration, as Professor Agnihotri has also hinted on some of the directions. So we can build on this and they can take up this challenge as well. So thank you so much for your time and connecting from such a remote place to our students and encouraging them to think about this issue. I have a small announcement. This week, we'll have one extra seminar. We'll also have a seminar on Friday. Students, please note that although it is marked as a holiday in the calendar, we'll still have a seminar that evening at 5:15. You will get the details later in the email, but just wanted to give you a heads up right now. Thank you so much. And,
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to any collaboration possible. And anytime you need me, just give me a call.
Sure. Okay. So, Pankaj, do you propose that we close, or if there are any further?
Well, yes, I mean,
you want to informally continue, whichever way.
We can formally close.
Yes.
So people who need to leave can, but if Shubhranshu is okay for another 5 odd minutes, if there are anybody who has not been able to speak and would like to speak, we are a small group. It's informal. So please, there's some nice comments, Shubhranshu. Milind says it was an eye-opener session. Shweta says it was very interesting. So again, thanks a lot, Shubhranshu. Anybody wants to then, any comments or questions, or then we'll actually formally and physically wrap up. But otherwise, let's close it formally.
Yes.
And if
so students, you can imagine in the normal scenario, you are having a chai and samosa, which
yes,
and having
yes,
questions with him. So you can continue informally.
If anybody wants to, yes.
Thank you. I'll have to excuse myself, so I'll take a leave.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much, sir.
Thanks, Anand. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm fine with time. So if you have any questions, and so I'm very, very grateful that so many ideas came in, and so we'll be keen to explore more with whoever has time.
Sure. Very fascinating, very insightful talk. So I think that's also the responses. So yeah, and I'm just waiting. There anybody? Yeah, there is Paresh wants to say. Paresh is one of our PhD students in his final lap of completing his PhD. Paresh, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This was a very, very inspiring talk. I just had a suggestion for when Agnihotri sir was talking about this voice to, could we also add an element of translation to it? Because that, I mean, for the culture to reach outside, or for somebody who is an outsider to communicate with the tribals, that may add an additional idea or additional way of communicating with the communication between the two, say, I don't know, how do I classify them, between the tribals and the non-tribals.
So if I understood you correct, Paresh, yes, we are working on machine translation tools. We are working with Microsoft Research. So at the moment, we are working on text-to-text translation, which we would like to take it to speech, which will be much difficult. Like Gondi is not a language, it's a dialect. And so if I can talk politically here, so like Bengalis got Bengal, Gujaratis got Gujarat, but there should have been a Gondwana, but they got divided into 6 different states. So Gond tribes are in 6 states, and there are 6 types of, if not more, Gondis. So in some areas it's Odia Gondi, Telugu Gondi, Marathi Gondi, Hindi Gondi. So from last 5-6 years, we have been trying to build their first standard dictionary. So though we are a journalist, but if you want to do journalism, you need a language. So Hindi has 49 dialects, but state made a standard Hindi. So Hindi maybe spoken in Rajasthan is called Rajasthani, spoken in Bihar may be called Bhojpuri, and it will be very different. Same is with any language, but when you write books, when you do journalism, you do it in standard language. So there was no standardization, and technology can help here as well. We can make standardized dictionary online. It can be on the phone. Earlier dictionaries were in printed form. So we have made an online dictionary which is very rudimentary, very basic, where you tap and it also speaks, all on phone. So that's number one. Number two, we are working on this machine translation tool with the help of community, and it was all done during COVID time. So they're all sitting in their home and translating on their phone. So we have made the first version of Gondi to Hindi machine translation tool. Of course, it will be in very bad shape because we did only 20,000 words. Now we want to do 1 lakh words. And after that, we would like to start on speech to speech or speech to text. As Agnihotri sir was saying about speech to text, we're trying that in Hindi, but that's also not working very well for us. But these are the tools we would like to work on, we would like to build. And you're absolutely right. So the test case for us is a collector goes to a village, speaks in Hindi, and people understand in Gundi. There is a machine in the middle. They are answering in Gundi, collector understands in Hindi. Like what Agnihotri sir was saying, he was absolutely spot on. The Maoist problem is, if you look at it from this angle, it's the upper class of Adivasis who speak Hindi. The upper class can be translated into educated or who have learned Hindi, have come with the state, and the lower class who does not speak Hindi, who is not educated, has gone with the Maoist. So there is a very clear-cut division, and if you make a Bultoo like platform where anybody can tell their stories in their own language, then you break that glass ceiling. So in the whole history, 40 years of Maoist problem or Maoist history, there's only one school pass Adivasi has ever done. Adivasi has, but that's the reality. 99.9% of them are school dropouts. And why were they drop out? Because the teacher spoke in Hindi and they didn't understand any Hindi. It sounds so simple, but if you have a machine sitting there, all of these kids could have been in school and continued their education, and none of them, will be playing with guns. Sounds simplistic, but the kind of things you are suggesting are the solutions. So we say, we don't need CRPF. We need CRPF also, but we need more of these innovations. And many of these things need not be innovated; they just need to be tweaked to make it appropriate for the situation. So there's a question from Anand on education. Paresh, have I answered your question?
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
Thank you, Paresh. And so Anand is asking what kind of education. Education will have to be useful to them, Anand. They've not seen aeroplane, A for aeroplane. Uh, so they have an education system, these Gond tribals. They call it Gotul, where boys and girls come together and they learn from each other. It's called community learning or peer learning. So I know something, I teach you. You know something, you teach me. And they learn about farming. They learn about fishing. They learn about how to make bamboo basket. But what our education teaches them, um, you know, I talked to lots of parents. They said, "Barbad ho gaye hamare bacche." Means, your education has spoiled them because they neither can come back and work in the farm or neither they get a job. So they are useless. So education system needs to be, again, what I'm talking about, technology. You bring a internet-based solution where there is no internet. In the same way, you train people to be babus, or you train people to be writing on the table and chair, and there is no table and there is no chair. So they need to work on the farm. That's where majority of them will get work. So education system is a problem rather than a solution. So education has made them worthless for their community, and so sorry to be using these harsh words, but education has made people selfish. Education has made people antisocial. Education has made people, and they don't want to go back to home. They think their parents are, monkeys. About health, they have lots of health knowledge. If you can bring allopathy there, I don't know if even that is better or not, but of course allopathy has many good things, but we ridicule these things like gotul. We ridiculed Gotul, and now Yatin will know these things. They also learn about sex there. Sex education is part of our life, but the only thing we journalists reported about that these are sex shops. These boys and girls are having sex there. In the same way, this health, we call them Jhola Chap doctor, we call them whatnot, but that's the only thing available to them. 80%, 90% of them are saved, if at all. Many of them die because their knowledge is not very modern, but the old knowledge needs to be improved upon rather than calling them quacks. So we need to come together. So like we run a communication platform called Swasthya Swara. So where we are encouraging all these Veds that, okay, tell what you know. So this leaf is used for that, that bark is used for that. It's what happens normally is father passes on this information to son. But now son, because he's educated, he thinks father is a joker. So he doesn't learn this. And father dies one day and all the knowledge goes to the grave. So that's happening more and more. They speak a language we don't understand. So they have quite a few knowledge. And this, some knowledge may be, humbug and wrong, but some may be, very, very useful for all of us. So those need to be documented, and they need to be respected first, is what I'm trying to say. So their go-to needs to be respected. Their health knowledge needs to be respected. So Yatin is saying the similar knowledge which got institutionalized in Ayurveda. So I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, Yatin, but Ayurveda, this knowledge is probably older than Ayurveda. So this needs to be brought together. Or so like Ayurveda people are harming the health practitioners. Means I'm not going into the politics of it, because Ayurveda is now recognized. So you can do BAMS. So these Ayurveda doctors are calling these Veds quacks. And so yeah. So there are layers and layers of. So probably allopathy people don't look down upon it Ayurveda, and Ayurveda people look down upon this forest-based traditional medicine or traditional health practice or whatever. So there are various layers, and we need to look at it closely. I'm not an expert, but that's another area. So health is the most important thing, and so is education. So we need to look at health and education. And as Professor Agnihotri was saying, that we need to look it from their eyes rather than imposing what we think is right.
Maybe we should finally wrap up on that note. So Abhishek has one question. Maybe we can take this the last question. I think it's an important one. If you see in the chat, Shubhranshu.
Do you think to overcome some of the issues, NGOs intervention is possible? Are there any NGOs working there? If not, because of security issues, is there need for awareness in this? Yes, NGOs can help, but as I'm saying that, NGOs are of various types. Somebody was telling me a story of somebody having a work of 5 crore or something. He was saying some obscene amount on advising how somebody who is earning 1,500 rupees and how they will tell. So NGOs, they need to be, grassroots based. They need to be listening to people. Of course, urban knowledge is, so allopathy, I'm not saying anything wrong to that. In the same way, urban knowledge need to be tested on the ground. All these technology we are talking about is a product of the institutes like IIT. But we also need to be a little humble and go down and listen to them and test them. So similarly, the NGOs are there. They are very urban NGOs, and they come with their fixed ideas. They want to impose. Those things are not going to work. So like government has many good things. Similarly, many NGOs have many bad things. So NGO is a one-shot solution to everything. I will not agree to that, but NGOs also have a role. They have their strength. So does government. So government and NGOs, like I always say, we need to come together. As CGnet, we can bring empathy. We can bring probably a little bit of specialization, a little bit more care. But governments will bring scale. So you need scale, you need empathy, you need extra care, special care. So both have strengths and weaknesses, and they need to come together, and we need to work together. So like technology has strength, and so does what we call traditional knowledge. Or so both needs to be clubbed, and both needs to listen to each other and work together. Is what will be my humble suggestion.
Great. I think on that note, that would be the perfect note to close then, of how we can all work together. So again, thanks a lot, Shubhranshu. It's been a fascinating evening, and let's see how we can perhaps take at least some of these discussions forward. And thanks to all who stayed on, and maybe everybody has ideas of what we can do individually and as a group. So thank you. And
thank you, Pankaj, for having me, and thank you, everybody. I look forward to working with all of you in the days and months and years to come.
Thank you. So I'm going to end the meeting now for everybody. Thanks, Sudha. And if Abhinav's there, thanks to Abhinav who kind of put it together. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.